Yeah, and I can't for the life of me figure out what the part of heritage that people want to hold on to. Like, you lost. At some point, like, what are you proud of?
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
So, talking about sensitivity and talking about how people should be aware of things they do or say, or the things that could impact someone else they interact with or come in contact with. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of research because in the South, and a lot of my family, they're very proud of their, I'm using air quotes, heritage.
Yes.
And like I've had my aunt and uncle, one of them, they quit watching NFL for a while because Kaepernick took a knee. And, when they did the whole thing with the Betsy Ross flag, and here the thing that people fly proudly on their clothes, on their body, on their cars is the Confederate flag or the rebel flag. And like with you being a Black man, like, have you ever taken care of a patient that maybe had like that tattoo, or that was a symbol? And how would that make you feel before you actually interacted with the person or the family member?
So like, I just have to say, going into this conversation, that I have very, 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 very strong feelings on this topic, right? So I'm not even going to beat around the bush and pretend that I want to understand. Okay. So to answer your question, I live in Boston, Massachusetts. There are very, 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 very few times that I have seen the Confederate flag. In general, I have never seen a Confederate flag on a person. I have seen a patient with a Nazi, what's it called?
Swastika?
A swastika, a tattoo. It wasn't like a tramp stamp, but it was on their back, lower back.
Oh my
Crazy
goodness.
tramp stamp to have. But it was a male. It was a male patient. So unless that issue comes up, I try to pretend that it's not there. It's hard. I gotta be honest. Like, it is hard to pretend that you don't see it, right? But unless that issue comes up, if the patient says, I don't want this Black patient, this Black nurse, I don't want this Asian nurse, I don't want this, Indian doctor. Like, if they ask or say any of those things, then the issue comes up. But that specific patient, that issue never came up. So I didn't push any of my judgments, and I let him believe the things he believed, and I didn't try to pull anything out because I didn't want to start anything. He's a patient. I'm here to take care of their health. Let's move on. So I'm lucky that I have never had to deal with that. But when it comes to the Confederate flag, when it comes to dealing with that kind of stuff, like if you have gone through American history, you know that the South seceded from America. They wanted to be a different country because of slave. So like, it's and like, if you do any research, the Civil War caused more deaths to Americans than any other war, there is no comparison, right? There is no comparison. So for you to be proud of your heritage, yes, if you were born in Germany, or if you were if your parents or your grandparents were German and they were Nazis, are you proud that you are alive? Are you happy that you are a human being? Yes. Do you fly the swastika flag every day because your parents were part of? No, because you understand that your parents, your grandparents, your ancestors have done things that are not things that you believe in today. So I don't understand why people can't take that outlook on that same situation when it comes to race, when it comes to the Confederate flag. I just think for you to proudly wave that flag around and say that this is a part of my heritage, so I am going to wave it around. If my uncle or my great-grandfather was a murderer, I'm not going to go around saying murdering people is a good thing because someone in my heritage did it. You just have to understand that I'm happy that I'm alive. I'm happy that I'm a human being. I'm happy of who I am today, but I'm going to take the best parts of my ancestors, the best parts of my grandparents, and I am going to represent that in who I am today with the best of who I am, right? So, yes, that is how I feel. I'm sorry, but yes.
No. I appreciate it. And come to find out, I've done a lot. I'm not a big history buff, um, but since doing this podcast, I've really been digging into a lot of different things for each episode. And come to find out, the rebel flag that they used, it was never a flag. Like
That's
that
insane.
wasn't it wasn't nationally recognized. There were 3 Confederate flags. That was never one of them. It was just one that
Are you serious, Jamie?
I swear, this was like a flag that was in Tennessee that they ended up using at the very end of it, but it was never nationally recognized. So when people want to say that this is their heritage, what heritage? And the official flag of the Confederate States, of the Confederate Union, was the Betsy Ross flag.
Oh,
The
wow.
one that they didn't want on the Nike shoe or Brooks shoe, I think it was Nike, on the Nike shoe. That's why there was such a stink about it, but no one ever took the time to figure out, because they said, hey, it was just a flag of our country. No, it was the flag of the Confederate States.
And wait, the Betsy Ross flag, was
It's the
that
one with the circle?
with the circle of the
Yeah.
stars, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, Jamie, I had no idea
Yeah.
that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
That also goes to show that when people say it's for the heritage, number one, did they really do their research? Like, if you're that one family from Tennessee that is an ascendant from the creators of the Confederate flag that we know here today, 2019, good for you and your heritage. But for literally everyone else in the South, did you do Ancestry.com? Did it say like, are we going to be real here?
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I can't for the life of me figure out what the part of heritage that people want to hold on to. Like, you lost. At some point, like, what are you proud of? I mean, I don't understand how that feels because I'm an Alabama fan. So, but you don't have the potential to be successful again. Like, they literally changed the Constitution because this was no longer a part or relevant or okay. And part of the reason why they succeeded, that I also found out, like you were saying, because they weren't okay that they didn't want slaves anymore. They also, under the federal law, they didn't want people to lynch Black people anymore. But the South still wanted to do it. Like, why is that something you want to be proud of? Why do you want to be proud of a time that you caused pain and death? And did you know that there were 4 million slaves that were set free after the North won?
That's
4 million.
insane.
Do you know how long ago that was for there to be 4 million slaves?
That's crazy.
My mind is blown at that number alone.
4 million is a big, 4 million is a big number. And you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, that was the cause of the war. Because slavery made a lot of money, and they were not willing to let go of that free labor, and that free labor allowed them to make all the money that they did make down south. But yeah, that's the reason that this seceded. For anyone who says that they were fighting for state rights, they wanted the state rights to allow slavery. Yeah. That's why they wanted those states' rights. So for me, it's a closed and shut case. If you are waving a Confederate flag, I just have to say that's one of those things where I'd rather not. I don't want to be it's a very big barrier for me to have to get over, for me to be friendly with someone who is willingly and happily proud of that Confederate flag, is waving it around and saying that this is a part of who I am and I'm never going to let this go. Congratulations. I don't want you to forget about your ancestors, but the things that your ancestors did to the people that looked exactly like me, no, thank you.
They don't wear the clothes that they wore back then. I don't see them running around in, like nobody's running around in wigs either. I mean, we progress, so I just don't. So what would you think if you came across a man who had like a rebel flag on his shirt, like without you speaking to this person, what do you think their mentality is this man's mentality? Like, how do you see him as a person?
That's a really good question. And so I'm a strong believer in like benefit of the like
Sure,
just
right.
yeah, right. So depending on the age of the person, so I have to be honest. If it's a young like 20-year-old, and I know because I'm 25, right? I know what it feels like to be a part of a crowd, to be a part of a group. So that's why I empathize with those people. And it's gonna sound crazy, but I empathize with those people that are in those 8chan, 4chan group chats because that is their form of family. If you are part of those kind of groups, you feel like these are the only people that are speaking to the feelings that I have. So I want to empathize with those young folks that are joining these crazy super far right, crazy, hardcore, racist, anti-Semitic, whatever situation groups, right? So first of all, if they're young, I'm going to be like, look, you can find people who care about you, love you, are going to treat you like you are a part of their team, part of their family. That has nothing to do with racism. That has nothing to do with respecting the heritage that hated an entire group of people just based on race. But at the same time, like I said, I have to be honest. It's a barrier. What I'm going to think about that person is that person does not like who I am as a human being. So I'm just going to I'm not going to converse with that person unless I have to. Jay, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I have to argue my humanity with someone. So yes, I feel for them. I can try to understand why they're doing what they're doing, but I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I have to argue that I am just as human as they are, or I deserve the same things that they deserve. And yes, I am making that assumption that they look at me as lesser than, but that's what I see in that flag. That flag shouts to me, you are less than I am, if it's someone that's not black that is wearing that flag.
And you have to think, these groups like you were talking about, like the neo-Nazis, there's a reason why that's part of what they fly around. That's why it's a part of what this group wears, what this group chooses to represent them. They choose a swastika. They choose the rebel flag. And I mean, even the KKK, like a couple years ago, they were up in New York handing out brochures to these children and leaving them on doorsteps. And guess what? The person on the front of the brochure had a rebel flag. Why do you think that is? I mean, it's not a really difficult concept to grasp.
Right. Yeah, no. Yeah, like you're not taking a huge leap of faith to say, oh my goodness, it's a coincidence that everyone that has a neo-Nazi flag also agrees with the people who like the Confederate flag. That's not a goddamn coincidence. That's not a coincidence, right? So when you had those people march, and I'm sorry, I think was it in North Carolina with the Jews will not replace us, good people on both sides. Donald Trump, was that in North Carolina?
I don't know. I know there was one in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Virginia. No, it's definitely Charlottesville, Virginia.
And then they came up to Boston right after that, but it was a very few amount of people. I was in Boston during that time.
Oh, wow. Well,
yeah.
Well, good for you. Go Boston. I'm from Boston. But
me too. Great place.
Yeah. Woot, woot. Go Pats. We just won today. But yeah, no. When you see that happening, it's not a coincidence to see them waving the Confederate flag. It's not a coincidence that those same group of people that are literally shouting down another group of people just based on what they believe in is also waving a neo-Nazi flag. So, like, you're right. You don't want to make these judgments. But if you consider yourself not racist, if you consider yourself not anti-Semitic, if you consider yourself like the most open human being ever, but you also love your heritage and want to hold on to the Confederate flag, you have to ask yourself the question, why do the people who actually hate Jews also like this flag? Why do the people who actually hate blacks also like this flag? And if you are justifying, they just believe something totally different than me, but they also like the same things I like, there has to be some kind of justification in your heart, or you are just lying to yourself and you actually believe that you are better because you're white, you are better because you're not a Jew, you are better because you're a man, whatever the the bigotry that you have in your heart. You are either justifying it or you're lying to everybody else, and you know what you feel, and you do agree with those hateful people.
That is so well said.
Jamie, I've been like ranting all day, and like you are the greatest host I've ever. I don't
Except
know
for
how
not
much.
being on time. I'm sorry.
Stop it. I don't know how much nursing we actually talked about, but like I think about this all the time, and I think to be a nurse, you have to understand like human beings, and to understand human beings, you have to understand the good and the bad. And I think we had such like. This is like the deepest conversation I've ever had on any like this is something special. It might be a little too much. I don't know what the
I don't think
downloads for this
so. I don't
episode
think
is going
so.
to be like, but this is I enjoy, like you are fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. I've loved talking to you all this time, too. I can't thank you enough for agreeing to talk to me.
Yeah, no. It's like, I don't know, because when I do my nursing news videos, it's just me and the camera.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm a little afraid to go like really talk about how I feel specifically. But when someone asks you how you feel, you let loose. So
Yeah, right?
So you gave me the permission to let loose, and I feel really good about it. So I don't know, judgment, no judgment, whatever you receive, I would love to see what happens. But just what I'm trying to say is thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak the feelings that I felt for a very long time. So just thank you. Thank you for letting me for your podcast to be my vent.
Anytime that something comes up to you and you're like, you know what? I feel very passionate about this. Shoot me a message. We'll record about it. We'll make it a thing. Because I loved having you on and talking to you.
Oh, good. And it's mutual. So I'm gonna have to sometime have you on my side, and I will have to flip it. Or like I said, I'll probably just end up cutting a lot of this up, and posting it on my YouTube channel, on my podcast, because we had some conversation. I mean, this is legit, girl. Jamie, you're doing something special, girl. I'm telling you, you're doing something special.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate that.